Well, g'day, Dr. Sue. Welcome to the show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Hi, Pete. It's lovely to be here.
Could you tell us your big fancy title? What is your whole doctor's name?
Oh, my big fancy title is I have my doctorate in health administration, my master's in nursing in integrative health. I am certified as an advanced holistic nurse, and I'm certified in psychiatry, which is a nice little twist in life.
Yep.
And I'm also a certified nurse aromatherapist.
Wow, that's a lot
Lots
of stuff. Now, I just want to just highlight something that's been happening while we've been having conversations here. You're going to hear this thing. It's going to sound like the ocean, like a... all those sort of sounds are going to come up. Skype's just giving us some of its wonderful magic. So we'll get through that. Just listen for the content. It could get wild, but yeah, it sounds like the ocean. We'll get over it. We're all entrepreneurs, guys. So yeah, just hang in there. So Dr. Sue, who is it that you're typically working with?
I typically work with both patients and healthcare workers in all kinds of venues, hospitals, long-term nursing homes in the United States. But what I found was I started training nurses to use things that were kind of off the beaten path, things that traditional medicine were not really fond of or had enough information to really understand. And because I'm in the part of the states that is really concentrated with medical schools and very traditional medicine. The first hospital in the country is in the state that I live in. The idea of doing things that involve energy and smelling flowers and things like that, they couldn't wrap their brain around it very much. So I started to bring some of those modalities, those kinds of practices, not first to the patients, which certainly is always our focus, but in training nurses, I found out that they started training each other because they were in a boatload of distress by virtue of the work they do, by virtue of their own life experiences. You know, day to day, Pete, we deal with kids doing things we don't want them to do, or things happening that we don't have control of, illness, the sick kid, you have a sick kid, we all, we live through that. We have aging parents, that we have to take care of now we've gotten so good at healthcare that they're living longer but they require care. We have life events, pregnancy, menopause, you name it. They all kind of tie in to layer onto the stress that we deal with every day. So I really shifted my focus on not just taking care of patients, which I still certainly support and educate people to, but how to take care of ourselves.
Okay,
Huge.
Yeah, that's massive, because these people, they're actually out there taking care of everyone, but not themselves, and then if they don't feel good, then they can't take care of people. So how did they start actually taking care of each other, when you started noticing that?
Well, I started, I was very involved, so I became a nurse aromatherapist. The nurse aromatherapy came out of taking care of elderly people that had dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and looking at ways to treat them that wasn't traditional, not using medicine that could cause a lot of other effects. Mm-hmm. So I became trained as an aromatherapist one concentrated oils called essential oils, and we put one drop of oil on a cotton ball and taped that to the shirt of a patient who was confused, and we found statistically in doing formal research that they quieted and got calmer, and there's a lot of literature out there that talks about that. As I started training the staff, they started spraying each other with lavender spray and coming to me and saying, I need a treatment. The other thing that I did that was kind of unique in the hospital was we had a nursing group that formed around learning about these complementary therapies, whether it be aromatherapy or meditation or massage or something called Reiki, which is centuries-old energy healing. And we had started with 7 people. You call a meeting and you pray that somebody shows up. 7 people came. Within a year, we had 45 people coming to this meeting. And why were they coming? They needed their own care. They were distressed, and they thought that, and part of the meeting was to learn new things about how to de-stress, how to take care of ourselves. So the demand was really, really apparent. I then spent time looking at stress. What is it? What does it mean? Stress is a noun, it's a verb, it's an adjective. We say our life is stressful, this is stressing me out, I can't deal with any more stress. It has this big umbrella of all things evil. in some sense. But in reality, stress is good. It's good, right? We see those pictures of people lifting cars off of situations of horrible accidents. Where does that come from? Stress jumpstarts, sends blood, sends everything it needs to get important parts of your body to work when you have to get them to work. Pinpoints your pupils, keeps you real attentive. It's that fight or flight reaction. Makes us pull our hand away from the hot stove. All of those things are very critical to survival. The problem is when stress is sustained. So a great example is if you're holding a big beer out to your buddy across the bar, and you're holding that beer out for a short time, it's no big deal. Hold it out there for 10 minutes or 10 hours, and you know how that muscle starts to feel. It becomes painful, right? You get twitching, it becomes painful, and you can't do it. Stress, in long chunks of it, does that same burden to our entire body. But what people don't realize is it not only really impacts just our physical self, but our emotional self, our spiritual self. We've all had people that get sick all the time, you know, and you're like, what's going on? They pick up every germ and every bug and every illness their kid brings home from school, they have it within a few days. And other people go through life and they never take a sick day. What's the difference? We all have a human body. We're all made up basically the same way with a couple tweaks here and there. What's the difference? And the difference is people that are stressed, their immune system drops out. They don't have that reserve and that fight in them to prevent that. The other things that happen is we get clumsy. People fall, they get injured. We all know people that, you know, they just seem to be a train wreck. You're waiting for the next accident to happen, and they come in clusters sometimes. Your decision making goes, your clarity is gone. So your brain doesn't work as well as it should when you're under that amount of stress. We don't think about we think about things like we can't sleep, we eat too much, or we don't eat enough. And then as soon as you start disrupting those balances in your physical self, everything else starts to unbalance. And so there's the key is being able to find that balance. It also drives things like your sex drive falls off. You're miserable. You're irritable. People don't like being around you. So we all know there's people that the glass is not only half full, it's empty. It's gone. And from a healthcare perspective, you know, a great quote of mine is, you can only give if the vessel is full. We know that happy nurses make happy patients. If you walk down a hall and someone smiles at you, what do?
Smile back.
You smile back. If somebody doesn't even make eye contact with you and they're miserable looking, do you even engage them? And you kind of like the smirk kind of mirrors on you. So you really disconnect. And we're human people. We need to stay connected. And when we don't get that kind of positiveness from each other, you take a hit. So some days, and you may have some of your people, your listeners may have felt this, is it's hard to find people that are happy. And, you know, you really have to make an effort to do that. And what I find is that I make it a habit to say hello to people, to smile at people, regardless of how miserable I may feel or how angry I just left a situation or, you know, whatever's going on, because it can make the difference for people to just simply engage them, make visual contact, and smile to them. It's very, very powerful. So I put a lot of my last couple of years really looking at stress, understanding the nature of stress. And for some people, the really important thing is just taking the first step is identifying that you're stressed. Because we kind of just get in our motion of getting through the day, don't we? It's, I got to get to the next event. I have to get ready for the next event. I have to prepare for the next event. And we lose everything that's going on around us in that moment. And time slips through your fingers. You know, the older you get, the faster time seems to move. The first 21 years of my life seemed like they took forever. In the United States, you can't drink till you're 21. So you wait till that's a big hallmark event in your life when you're legal. Yeah. So everybody is, you know, once you hit like teenager, you want to be a 21-year-old. But we wish our white life away. And as you get older, you're kind of always grappling for more time. But, you know, in where I'm sitting anyway, you really start to cherish time, but it moves so quickly. So you have to savor the time and savor the moment and be mindful of where you are, because you lose perspective very quickly. But I focused a lot of time in trying to get people to have that awareness, because it does fill you back up.
Okay, now I'm thinking specifically of like my situation last year. I went through a miserable time, and particularly for entrepreneurs who we have this big vision of where we want to go. We have the challenge of no resources, of what can get us to there, and the time it takes, and the patience that you need to have to get to that next goal that you've set, or whatever it is. Now, for me personally, I didn't recognize that I was stressed and angry and frustrated, and I didn't want to admit it because I'm an entrepreneur and everyone needs to see me as successful and powerful, and affirmations and all that stuff that people, you go through these sort of things to try and convince yourself that everything's all right, but it's not. It's like, what are some of the signs that people in that situation can look out for? Because it was actually at an event where someone, through a series of questions in front of the whole room, actually revealed what my true problem was. What are some of the signs that, for me then I wasn't paying attention to, even though there was my wife and people saying, relax, you're stressed and you're angry or what, and like, no, I'm not. What are some of the signs that people can look for if they're?
So I think, that's a great question. I think that's a great question, because what's interesting in your commentary is people were telling you, just weren't accepting it. So the people closest to you that recognize the change, you were in denial. Like you said, first of all, you're a guy. Mm-hmm. Guys have that expectation. You are the ultimate, I'll get it done. And entrepreneurs by nature, those people who overcome challenges all the time, right? That's what you do good. That's what you're good at, because that's what gets you to that level of success.
It's an identity too. I'm that
guy.
Yeah,
it's like wired in your DNA, isn't it? I find entrepreneurs, it's kind of wired in them. And even though they may take a pitfall at some point because this project falls apart, they got one in their vision, they got one going the next week, they know where they need to be. It's the getting there that sometimes becomes pretty exhausting. So recognizing it, certainly, it sounds like people sometimes have to recognize it for you, but you have to be willing to accept the fact that you are depleting yourself. Because as soon as you can identify the depletion, whether it's your energy is gone and you're finding yourself not getting out of bed in the morning, you're eating poorly, and that just has that cyclical effect of you eat poorly, you feel poorly, you eat more poorly because that's the only thing that makes you feel better. As soon as you can start unraveling that, it's like the first step to recovery. Just like an alcoholic, just like a drug addict. As soon as you can identify the problem, you've taken the first step, and it's usually the first leap. It's a greater piece. But once you do that, then you have to then recharge yourself with the things that work. So for some people, it's exercise. Exercise, blood flow, muscle tone, blood flow to your brain. You feel better about yourself because you're looking better, all of those pieces. And I think what typically happens is once you reclaim that identity, the physical identity, the emotional identity, things, for some odd reason, I'm a great believer that the universe functions in a way that we don't always understand, that those other things fall into place. So successful people that you and I both know, Pete, why are they successful? Because they're constantly recharging themselves. They're constantly maintaining that presence, physical presence, emotional presence, finding that balance in their life. No matter what they're doing, they're balancing it. And because they constantly have that, the universe around them kind of clicks, doesn't it? So probably once someone kicked you in the butt and said, you're probably close to depressed now, you're not just like feeling bad, you're feeling that bad that you got yourself to a place that somebody had to kick you in the butt, then that was what was your leap, right? The first step is acknowledgement. Yeah, so what did you do after you heard that?
I went through a week of just really raw, weird. I actually I got a list of the people at the event. We all put a list around, and I spoke to every one of them. And
so you developed a support group.
Yeah, there was no plan, but it was just I just called them and said, hey, look, because they were all there, they all saw what happened, and it was just connecting with everyone. And for me, it just sparked a downward spiral. I went just like and just crashed and flattened. My wife has suggested maybe you're depressed. I think you might be depressed, and I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not, because I'm a man, and you deny all those things. And so, yeah, I accelerated down to where everything was just lost, and I had to start again and actually map out a plan. Which, funnily enough, it became the show. So this is the result of me facing up to, or having someone help me face up to the reality of where things aren't going and where they are going, and taking on too many things and actually being forced to start again, and then reassess, okay, my whole life, and go, well, what worked? What didn't work? Why did it work? Why didn't it work? What do I actually want? What's the one thing that I could do every day that would make me happy, even, to the point where I'd actually pay money to go and do that thing, which for me is speaking to business people and successful people about how they overcome challenges and do what they do. So then, step by step, the show evolved into what it's become now. And so this is what makes me happy. This is my business. This is how I sort of now make a living. And so it was funny because I needed that situation, that kick in the butt. And it wasn't a forceful someone did it. It was gentle questioning, I guess, that they did it with. And so
they massaged you.
yeah. And so I guess, for me, I had to go down. Some people accelerate up and go, that's what it is, and shoot off. Like I've been told, you don't know which direction it's going to go. And so, so I really recognize what's happening in that situation for me, and I want to help others never have to go through that situation again, or even have to go through it the first time, let alone again. For me, it was recognizing it, owning that that's what's happening, and then taking action towards making the difference, And it wasn't like you are successful, you're awesome, you're confident type affirmations. It was like it was the other way. No, this is the reality. This is what happened. This is where you're actually at, not where you want to be. And
you have a very classic response, which is those who achieve and come out of the pit of hell never want anybody else, because we're human beings. We never want anybody else to feel that pain. So here you sit, giving back. Giving back, right? You want to assure, because you classic support person, you want to assure that nobody ever feels as bad as you are. And that's a great accolade to you, I think. Because I entered a field that was give, and it can be very depleting. So you hit the bottom, and sometimes bottom is the lowest you can go before you can get, then there's only one direction.
Yeah, that's right.
There's only one direction. So you rallied around some resources, which for you was some kind of session that was very peeled away your onion and made you as raw as possible, and said, okay, we just took away every excuse you ever had in life to why things aren't going the way you want, and face reality and what's real. They got you down to the core of what's real, and here you sit extremely successful. So you have to hit bottom sometimes to come up, but you rallied around a set of resources that gave you that quick push up, I'm assuming.
Yeah, really, that was right. I was talking to the people that were there and who witnessed, and they were asking me, so how are you now? How are you feeling? Yeah. Which,
I think, I'm not sure what you were doing prior to this, but I think, for entrepreneurs, sometimes you're stuck. I hear a lot from people. They feel stuck in what they're doing. They're not happy with what they're doing. They're not happy with their life. And again, we can lump that in that big bucket of distress or stress. You're miserable if you're not doing what you love. And so that's an important component of self-reflection. It's a really important component. Life is short. We only get to do it once, and 100% of all people die. So
the statistics show. Just quickly, I've just noticed, I'm going to cough throughout this, because I've noticed when I make a noise, it goes into there and it stops that sound. So I'm an audio guy. I'm an audio guy, and I've just noticed what's going to fix it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. After we struggled with it for so long. I think you were in a place where you spiraled down to a point where you needed a whole lot of kinds of support. Hopefully folks who start to feel that things are feeling a little out of control, or they're life is changing in a way that they're noticing kind of subtleties. It helps to live with someone who can say, you know what, you were really restless, or you're more irritable, and not get barked back at, because sometimes that's the response. And I always say to people, the people that you love the most are the ones that are going to treat you the worst, because there's that unconditional reassurance that they'll hang out with you even through the tough times. Obviously, as your wife did,
yep.
Right? In this circumstance, which is fabulous.
She's probably been through more than I have.
Yeah.
In my journey trying to make it,
Sure. Yeah. Well, because there's obviously there's more to you than what you were doing in life. There was you, and so that's why she probably certainly stayed with you. But I'm sure that's why she stayed with you.
No, she's awesome. She's tops.
Yeah, there you go. And so I think, but starting to be having that self-awareness, that takes a lot too. We're busy. We're outward people. We're watching what's going on all around us. But that self-reflection, which comes with things like meditation, whether it's in prayer, whether it's in reciting mantras, or if it's finding that quiet place 10 minutes of the day where the kids aren't banging on the door and you're not expected to be here, and you can just be with yourself in an inner kind of experience and an inner kind of self-reflection. Look at affirmations. What did you do good today? What did you do good today? What made your day really wonderful? Here's what I did good today. I was walking across the hospital parking lot, and some poor guy pulled up and with a brand new cast, and his wife was not willing to get out of the car to help him get in the car. And I went over and took his crutches and got him in the car. And he's like, what the hell? She couldn't even help me get in the car. And I said, these new casts are tricky. And he was like, ma'am, thank you so much. And you don't hear that a lot. I mean, you do, but you don't. It was a very meaningful thank you. So I made a difference in some guy's life. He might have a fight with his wife the whole way home in the car, but, it filled me up. I did something really good for somebody that wasn't expected, that wasn't asked for, wasn't part of my job. So you have to do some of that inner reflection, retrospective review, whether you journal and you write it down every night as a cathartic way to offload the nasties as well as get the affirmations. Very powerful way to do it. But really find something that is your sync. A lot of people, it's exercise. Exercise is a great offload. It's one of the best. But for others, it's that endorphin feeling when you're doing some distance work or some really good aerobic work that, again, uses hormones, uses your body's own chemistry to make you feel better and stay healthy. But recognizing it early is as critical as recognizing illness early, right? The stats out there now are 95% of all illness is founded in stress. Isn't that fascinating? We think that, it's our body mechanics or whatever, and 95% of all illness is related to stress. So if you think about simple things like heart disease, where what do people do when they're stressed? They eat poorly, they sleep poorly, they smoke, they may drink, they may use things that are not legal, and all those things are a burden to the most important part of the keeping us alive, which is our cardiac muscle. So if you can offload stress effectively, think of how healthy you'll be and how much more you can enjoy life always. Nobody likes to be sick. Nobody likes to be sick. It's a burden on you. It's a burden on your family. It's a burden on the people that you touch, like you and I are doing right now. If you're not feeling good, your audience is going to know it. If I'm not feeling good, the people I work with are going to know it. So that we have a greater goal than just taking care of ourselves. We're part of humanity, and we're part of a world that expects us. I expect myself to be part of it and contribute to it. And if you're miserable, you're not doing a good job. You're just not doing a good job. So, I think that we all have a great play in life, but we have to start with ourselves. You're only as good as you can be, but you got to work at it. It just isn't given to us. Our bodies are kind of a gift, and you have to take care of them. And one of those ways is really doing some of that self-reflection. So I wonder if maybe 30 days before you hit the wall, or 2 months before you hit the wall, if you really kind of spent the time to peel back that onion or those layers or however you want to describe it and say, what the heck's going wrong with me? What do I need to do? What do I need to do to get rejuvenated right now? That would maybe have opened your brain up to look at other options. Because when we start to get stressed, we get very tunnel visioned. You get very focused, which is good when you have to be that way, bad when it deletes the rest of the world and what opportunities are out there.
What you said there about the tunnel vision, just before you said it, I was thinking about, my term was focus. Like, you become so focused on what you're trying to do that the solutions are actually, they elude you. Yeah,
they're all around you. They could be, right? They could be all around you. And you're just like, I have to. And I only know one way path because I'm so intense that I can only focus on that one way path. Yeah. And you know, in general, not with my healthcare workers, but in general in life, I say to people, you know, well, you know, I'm a nurse. So nurses, we have very little empathy for people that we love the most when they get sick. So in my house, the rule of thumb was if you didn't need a transfusion or you weren't dying, then it was okay because it's fixable, right? It's immediately fixable. So I have very little empathy. So I say to people, you know, it's all perspective. It's all perspective. Relax. If you can't control it, accept it. Greatest example is road rage. Do you have road rage in Australia?
I don't personally have it, but yeah, people do have. I've been driving in a job in a past life as a Xerox technician in the busiest Sydney traffic possible for 12 years. So yeah, I've learned to not have road rage.
So we certainly have road rage in the States. It's an ugly thing. But if you think about it, so you're sitting in traffic with maybe, you know, 100, 200 cars on a big expressway, and nobody's moving. And what's everybody doing? They're blasting horns. They're yelling at people. They're getting upset. Why? Can you fix it? No. So why waste it? Why deplete yourself of all that energy for nothing that you can control in that moment? It's kind of a different way to look at life. But again, and even internally, for folks, we're all business people. So if you encounter a really bad experience and you're really angry, I have 2 daughters, and I used to say to them, they'd get so frustrated, especially teenage daughters. You know, they take it all in. They don't know what to do with it. They react. I used to say to them, are you allowing that person to have control over you to make you feel as bad as you do right now? And they'd be like, they don't control me. I'm like, yeah, they are. They're making you feel bad, getting upset because of some silly thing they said or something they did, but you're allowing them to do that to you. Do you want to give them that control? And you refocus the whole response, right? The whole reaction to an experience, and it offloads the stress. So when you're having a really bad time, you know, you walk away and leave it. It's a unique thing that in healthcare and in many places it's called mindfulness. You're in the moment. You're present completely in the moment. You respond to that moment. You react to that moment. You're giving of yourself. You're listening completely attentively. But when you're done, you close that door emotionally, physically, spiritually, and you walk away. And that way it severs that connection. And that's very powerful in bad experiences. So in healthcare, when you have to have the tough conversations, the really difficult conversations with people that are so drawing and depleting, you have to learn to separate yourself. And that's really hard to do. It takes some practice. But you can also do it in a positive way. So you can do things like enjoy digging in the dirt and recognizing what you're doing, the texture, the feel, the warmth, the smells. I used to tell people I have shower epiphanies. My best thinking is in the shower. Why? Why would you think that was the best time to be open to thinking?
Well, I think that's mine too, because what I think it does, it has the noise blocks out the chaos that's happening in my life. I've got 4 kids, 12 and under, so it blocks out all that noise, and I'm just me being me.
The water, you and the water, right? And there's a shower pulled or a door closed, and then another door, or maybe not, but another door closed. So you're separating yourself.
It's like a triple barrier. It's got the door, the shower room, and the noise. Everything's just blocked out.
Plus, what does water do? Water by nature, right? We come from water. We're born in water. Yeah, it's so soothing. And it's typically, unless you want a cold shower because you need to redo something else or rejuvenate, it's warm, it's comforting, it relaxes your muscles, it really calms everything. And in doing that, it gives you that openness of your mind. So get it? There's the connection. You're relaxing yourself, you're offloading your stress, and it allows your mind to open up. And sometimes my greatest ideas come from the 10 minutes in the shower, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? That's so simple. Why not? Because I was so intense that you had to kind of, unravel, peel away the onion, whatever you want to call it, and allow yourself that openness to just think beyond that focus. Yeah. So practicing those things routinely, like meditating, doing yoga is another great way. It's meditation and posturing. Tai Chi is another new kind of movement therapy with meditation combination. All of those things that are simple, they don't take a lot of practice. Listening to music. I mean, music to me is diversion. It gets me moving. It energizes me. That's the kind of music I like. But for some people, you put on a song. So for me, Paco Bell, you put Paco Bell on in Canon, and I just totally relax. Totally relax, no matter what I'm doing. It just washes over me and can relax me. But that took time to get there, because you have to be able to unclutter your brain when you're doing that. And that's a little tricky. You have to constantly push away the stuff that's saying, what am I making for dinner, and who's picking up the kids, and who's taking the dog, and where am I going next, and what do I have to prepare for? You have to be able to block all that out and then just be in that moment. So it's fun. Yeah. It's fun.
Now, just going back to the yoga side of things, a friend of mine is actually like when I was doing different stuff, internet-y stuff, I was sort of helping her out. She actually runs a yoga studio, Yoga and Beyond, out at Wetherill Park, just to give her a plug. Hey, Gigi.
Hey.
Now, Gigi actually told me some really full-on things happen in the studio, in sessions, when people strike a certain pose. I don't know the names of the poses, but they do a certain yoga pose. And what those poses do, they, because of their breathing and the way that they're shaping and stretching, and their organs are positioned differently. She said we actually store stress in our organs. So, like, the chemical reaction that you have to stress, actually the chemicals go somewhere, and certain things get stored in certain organs. So she'll say people will do a pose and they're all happy and whatever, and all of a sudden they do the pose, and it does its job, and all of a sudden they just break into tears, and they're really emotional, and all this stuff just comes out. Because the stress is like literally, like I picture it like leaking out of the organs.
Uh-huh. Well, it's cleansing. It's cleansing. It's a cleansing process. Some of those yoga poses. I have a great kind of little story for you. So in my aromatherapy world, one of the things that we do is we give patients and families and people in our malls and things, hand massages with lavender. Lavender is one of those oils that just is a calming. It's like it's grandmother's remedy. It solves all ills, but it's very, very relaxing because of the compound in it called linalool. and I found when I started hand massaging people, very simple, putting lavender lotion and hand massaging and talking to them, it was like opening up this cauldron of their own stuff. When you start taking care of people or giving them comfort, they would kind of have this cathartic event where they were like vomiting all their ills. And I tell people that I was a psychiatric nurse for many years before I kind of evolved into where I am today. And I said I count my blessings because I've needed not to be reactive to some of the things that people have said to me in these 5-minute experiences where there's a trust that develops, people I don't know, never met, and I start explaining what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and the massage, and and I'm chatty, and how's your life and how's things, and you get, oh my gosh, I just caught my husband cheating on me after 20 years of marriage. I mean, big stuff, not little like my son doesn't do his homework. It's big stuff, and because of my psychiatric background and what I've done in the community and in hospitals, I could not react, number one, but two, give them some very distinct recommendations of maybe what they need to do next. Find more support, counselors, see physicians, all kinds of need that had to be addressed. But that simple act like you're saying, getting into a yoga pose, offering people this simple relaxation of massaging their hands just opened up this broke down this wall of what they were holding on to that was keeping them so stressed for somebody they had no connection with whatsoever. So it's fascinating. So I'm sure your friend has some great stories of people that just suddenly that cleansing experience just kind of oozes out of them in all different ways.
Yeah, she, I think she's like you as well. She has more degrees than a thermometer. And
I love that.
Yeah, and she's a counselor as well. And so that all comes into play. And yeah, it's amazing stuff. Now, so let me think now. So for people who maybe now after listening to this are recognizing some signs in themselves and maybe starting to understand that they might be stressed and angry, what are some of the first simple steps that people can do right now as they're listening to maybe sort of start the process of releasing some of that stress?
Sure. So, you can do things as simple as breathing. We breathe about 6 million times a year. Every time we breathe in, we breathe in and it affects your body when you do it purposefully. We move air all day long, right? We move air all day long because we have to. We have to exchange gases. That's our body. That's the engine of our body. But if you breathe in such a way that you do it in a counting session, so you always breathe through your nose, because when you breathe through your nose, it doesn't allow you to do big gasps of air that can be harmful for like people who hyperventilate. So you breathe through your nose in the count of 4. You hold it for the count of 7. And when you blow it out, you pretend you're blowing out a birthday candle. So you purse your lips, you narrow the hole.
Okay, can we do that right now? We'll do that now.
Do it.
Do it together?
To do. Okay.
So how do we do it?
I'm not going to do it, so I'm going to count.
Yep.
So I'm going to count to 4, hold for 7, and blow out over a count of 8. Okay, so
talk me through
breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now blow out like you're blowing a candle. Like this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, we are emptying our lungs, so you're really eliminating a lot of the air that just moves passively in our lung cage. So we don't do that a lot. We don't do deep breathing like we should. But forcing it slowly like that controlled way, you can do that a couple times. You usually start to feel your shoulders drop a little.
It was instant.
It was instant, yeah.
I must be stressed.
Well, yeah, but see how simple it is?
Yeah.
Costs nothing. Takes about 30 seconds, if that. So when you're really feeling pretty charged, I used to use that when I did, in one of my nursing lives, I did adolescent psychiatry, hardest nursing I ever did. And we used to do that for adolescents who were in sheer panic. The life as they knew it was coming down on them. And we would have them do some breathing exercises that would really instantaneously bring about a sense of relaxation. You're doing it again. You need another dose. Yeah, isn't that great?
That's really good.
It's great for children. So if you have kids, the whole birthday visualization to them, they get it. They get how to blow out birthday candles. So when you put the finger up as the birthday candle and say, now pretend you're blowing out the candle, it gives them that visualization and helps them through the process. But it's very relaxing. It's a quick fix. Things like now the next step is, so you know that you need relaxation because that doing something as simple that made you feel a whole world of different, right? So you need to put relaxation methods in your daily life. And you have to plan for them or else we won't do them. Because I know that. I've been unfortunately, the other end of that discussion. So you have to put things in your life. So whether it's routine exercise, whatever that is, walking, biking, running, aerobics, ellipticals, whatever you want to do, treadmills, whatever you want to do, put that in your life. Exercise is an amazing process because it increases your respiratory factor. It gets blood to your muscles, your organs. It cleanses. It really moves things around. It makes you more alert, gets your brain oxygenated at another level. It sweats out your pores, so it does a lot of cleaning. It's a great way to do it. Think about that you're eating properly. We tend to slam down stuff that is high carbs, not necessarily as nutritionally sound. And when you eat poorly, you feel poorly. Your GI tract gets sluggish. You get bloated. You do all those things that feel lousy. Not to say that you have to completely upend your existence of the things that you love to eat, because that has a benefit as well. But you can do other things. I use lavender a lot. Smelling lavender, very simple, cheap, inexpensive. It's grown all over the world. You can buy it in the States. You can buy it in places like health food stores. I think probably in your part of the world they sell them in like what we consider drugstores, or where you buy things like that. You buy a bottle of lavender, pure essential oil. Just smell it. Instantaneously, your nose responds to scent faster than your body responds to pain. So if you looked at your anatomy, the way your olfactory nerve sits right at the end of your nose, when you sniff something in, it immediately, within 0.5 seconds, responds. Is that fascinating?
Yeah. So what does that do then? Like when you get the lavender, it responds real fast. What's happening there?
So your body responds to the scent. There's molecules in the scent that relax your body. So lavender is one of those wonderful, easy, inexpensive scents. It has to be pure lavender. It can't be fake or perfumey kind of stuff. It has to say essential oil, 100% essential oil, meaning it comes from the lavender flower. And smelling it, you can spray your sheets if you're not sleeping well with a little bit of lavender. You can put it in your tub if you like to soak. You can spritz yourself. You can just hold the bottle up and smell it. And I can tell you, I've treated agitated patients, and they will calm down without the use of chemical medication. So if you're a naturalist, which many of us are, I believe, it's a quick, inexpensive, easy way without a lot of side effects that many times we see with other medications that treat anxiety and stress and things like that. So it's a great fix. But the real key, Pete, is find what works for you, because lavender and breathing may be your answer and all you need. For somebody else, that might be like, yeah, it's not. So you have to
move. Yeah.
Move. If you got, I see the guitar behind. You might need to play. Maybe playing music is your solace. It's where you can be all to you, and that again is a great way of respite. Find respite from your day-to-day crazies. Like, find that respite. We tell people to create kind of their own altar. If you need pictures, candles, flowers, low lighting, something very positive in your life, whatever that is, put that somewhere and declare that as your own. For you, it might be your office. It might be the nightstand next to your bed. It might be your outdoor lounge chair. But find that solace, find that space, declare it your own. And when you're in it, everybody's off limits. And 5 minutes is nothing, right? In our days, it's nothing. 5 minutes can get you 5 hours of peace of mind, peace of body, rejuvenate you in a way that it's remarkable. It's remarkable.
And I could imagine if you do that, the compounding effect of doing that every day, 365 days, year after year after year, would just turn you into a more relaxed person in general.
And the more you practice it, the better you get at it. You can do some other a little bit more detailed things, something called guided imagery, if you've ever heard of that. So guided imagery is listening to someone talk you through tricking your brain into believing it's somewhere that it's not. For example, and you can download these off the web for free. There's many that you can plug right in and download it into your MP3 player. They're about 10 or 15 minutes. But the classic kind of language in a guided imagery is, you close your eyes, you do some deep breathing, and take yourself to a place. We have waves in the background already, so we're at the ocean.
Yeah, we're in the ocean at the moment, until I
cough. So you hear the ocean, you feel the spray on your face, you taste the salt, you feel the sun, the sands between your toes. Look up the beach. Who do you see? It might be someone that is very important to you, someone that is very, that you love, that you care for, that you need to be with, and take all of that in. And when you visually, emotionally get yourself there, you can trick your brain into believing that you're also there. And when you do that, you eliminate things like pain. You eliminate things like stress, it's been proven that you actually can lower your blood pressure and your blood sugar if you have abnormal values, because that relaxation, again, 95% of illness is stress related. That relaxation and that respite. We used to have something in the United States called Calgon Take Me Away. It was a hand washing soap, but the little mantra of the advertisement, kind of always Calgon Take Me Away, was kind of get me out of this situation, right? It's kind of used. Yeah. So it's kind of the Calgon Take Me Away experience. So you're at the beach, the ocean's running, you're there, you close your eyes, you visualize it, and everything else that's a burden on your body and your mind is not there. So we actually teach people to use this before they have surgery. So when they're post-operatively and they're in pain, they're in distress, they go to that place, and a lot of those feelings, physical feelings, emotional feelings, are kept away for a period of time that can then allow them to relax and heal.
Because the thing about your brain is it doesn't know the difference between reality and something made up. There's no fiction, non-fiction area in your brain, because you have a dream, you wake up, it's like, now you've got that vision there. Your brain doesn't know that wasn't real, that you were getting chased by dragons, or whatever the dream happened to be. It's there.
It's there. The cool thing was, this was actually developed by a doctor who taught children to visualize that Pac-Man was eating their cancer cells. Isn't that phenomenal? Because children who were ill, that couldn't control things like losing their hair with treatment, and they were taken away from their family, they were hospitalized, they were taken away from their friends, their clothes, I mean, everything that they knew to be part of their existence was removed. And so the doctor had them visualize that Mrs. Pac-Man was eating their cancer cells, and they found these children had better quality of life and that they lived longer, because they actually had a sense of control over their bodies. And they were happier, and again, stress, burden on your body actually impacted their longevity. So that's really how guided imagery actually found its conception. Now it's really popular. We use it for all kinds of different focus points of treatment, and it's very specialized. Like, you can have guided imagery for one kind of illness, guided imagery if you are a post-war veteran of Afghanistan. There's guided imageries out there to help work through some of those issues. It's fascinating. It's fascinating stuff.
No, I love that stuff. I love how the brain works and that stuff that it does, because it sounds a bit out there to people that might not have heard it and going, oh yeah, whatever. But it's like, it's such a powerful thing, the brain, and most people are just programmed. They're just on autopilot. Whatever the world dished out to them, that's just what's in there. So like, we can control, to some extent, a lot of what goes in, like you turn the TV off and don't read the newspapers or whatever, to keep out the clutter. But you can then, and they do this sort of stuff a lot in business trainings and that type of thing. Like I've got a course here I did a little while back, psycho-cybernetics, they call it. Sure. I don't know if it's the same sort of thing, but it's about visualization, and kind of really putting yourself in that experiencing, allowing yourself to have that emotional connection, because now you have that there, it's real. It's something you can draw from, and the more of that you have in your life, the more of that actually comes into your life. It's not some weird spooky attraction. You just you behave a certain way, certain things tend to happen. I behave a certain way. I do interviews. I talk to Dr. Rich. He tends to put people like you in front of me and says, hey, you got to meet this person. She's really cool.
Right, yeah. And again, universes collide, right? For all kinds of reasons. Networking is described as it is. We network ourselves. We connect with people. We definitely collaborate, and that just layers on our experiences, and connects and exactly allows for connections like this that would have never happened to me 5 years ago. Good job on the wave noise.
Yeah. I'm very subtle.
Yeah, it's working. What's interesting is, you talked about how our brain works, and we can kind of accept that, but another mechanism of some of that stuff that's even more or less touch, feel, see is something like energy treatments. We accept that our bodies are kind of I say sometimes they're like a car. They're systems. We have to keep fluids up. We have to monitor what goes in, what goes out, all those pieces to our care. But we don't, because we can't see, feel, or touch it, is the energy that's involved in our world and in our bodies to make them work. So the idea of Reiki, which is an ancient Asian founded belief that we have these kind of, I call them electric sockets in our body, the chakras. You've heard of chakras. Starts at the crown chakra, and it's kind of a funneling of energy that makes us work. And when those chakras get out of balance, so do we. And so the very ancient belief of that someone can come and not even touching you, but just kind of holding hands over you, hovering, that I can act as a conduit of energy that exists in physics all around us, can put energy back into our body for wellness. People get better. People improve, not just because they're ill, but because their bodies are a little bit out of alignment, and we don't recognize it. I don't know if you've ever been to a chiropractor. Have you ever been to a chiropractor? No. So chiropractor, one of the first things they do is they lay you on a table, and they put your feet up, and they see if your feet are even with each other at the end of the table. Because if not, you're slightly out of alignment, right? Your skeletal structure is off. Your one hip is dropped or not because your back is off. So that's kind of they do a balancing of our bones. And sometimes all they do is they can do one quick manipulation and suddenly your feet are equal at the end of that table. And when that happens, so is your back aligned. And you probably can get off that table feeling a whole lot different because your body is working, moving in the way it's supposed to. So Reiki believes that your body has these energy flows. And when they get blocked, that energy blockages don't allow you to function well. And so I'm a Reiki master, which I didn't have in my list of initials after my name. And I've gone through some training and used Reiki. I've had some really amazing experiences where just hovering over people in their crown chakra, their heart chakra, and just intentionality, believing that I'm giving them the good of the earth, that they get better. So I'll tell you so it's voodoo-esque. I say it has this kind of voodoo quality about it, right? Yep. Not too long ago, I tell this story because it kind of scared me a little bit when it happened. I had a very sick, young cancer patient. Husband was very upset about what was going on with her, and she was really very, very ill and young, your age young with children, and she believed in Reiki. There was a belief piece, and I told her that I was going in to talk to her, just to visit her as I was rounding on the floor, and her mother was there. So she said, I'm going to have someone do Reiki for you. And I said, well, I'm a Reiki master. I'll be happy to do a treatment for you. And I just put my hands over her head and started talking to her to just kind of relax her. And the husband was just beside himself, appropriately beside himself. And he left the room, and we talked, and I finished the treatment. And she survived the night. I said to her, my goal is that you survive tonight. Because if you did, that was a big hallmark for her wellness. Because if she survived this intervention and this treatment of chemotherapy, that she would probably do okay. But it was a risk. So the next day, the husband came in and he said to me, I said, well, I got my wish. You're here. This is wonderful. I'm so excited for you and your family. And she goes, to her husband, tell her what happened. And this is very voodoo-esque. It really was out of my scope. He said, when you put your hands on her head, I saw a white light coming from you. Wow. And I said, really? I did the same thing. I went, really? And he said, and I knew then that you were doing something extremely powerful and that she would be okay. And I was fine. I went home. I slept the rest of the night. I talked to my girls. And we had a really good night. I knew that she was okay. Well, I had goosebumps. I went out and called my friends who are Reiki people and said, did this ever happen to you? And they said, yes, sometimes people have, they see auras. They can see that energy exchange that can happen. And she is still alive, this woman, not by virtue of what I did. I'm sure a combination of all things that were happening to her. She was not supposed to survive days. And this was months ago. But I never had that kind of experience. Reiki has always been something that, people get up and they feel re-energized because you're putting energy in, and they feel better and they feel all kinds of things. But it's very, very cool. So for us as kind of the business entrepreneur world, number one, we have to pay attention to ourselves, because if we're not doing well, those who we serve or those who we touch are going to be very aware of it. As you felt yourself, Your wife was sensing it. I'm sure your kids were sensing it, whether they could tell you or not. But we have to make sure that we're at our best, and that means taking really good care of ourselves and being mindful of our own little flaws and when things start to unravel, because it's easier to fix it instead of chase it to make it better, right? It's easier to prevent than to chase it and fix. So we have to really be mindful of that. But if you're taking care of others, for me, I have an obligation, I feel, to make sure that the people that I oversee or I supervise or I mentor also have that. I try to get that same work-life balance. So I opened a healing room in our hospital, actually 2 of them now, where we put a shiatsu chair massage. We have a massage table. We have lavender lotion and something called a diffuser that you can turn on and the whole room smells like lavender in about 5 minutes. We have music. We painted murals on the walls. So the staff, anybody can go in there. The cleaning people, the kitchen people, anybody can go in there and sit and get 5 minutes of that respite time, which is extremely, they come out feeling like, okay, I'm good now. I'm good for another couple hours.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so if people want to find out more about you, where do they go? Do you have a website, Facebook page, that kind of thing? We haven't even discussed this, so yeah, where can I send people to?
So I have a Facebook page, a personal Facebook page, but you can certainly contact me through that. Mm-hmm. If you have any questions. I'm extremely transparent. I believe in sharing everything because at the end of the day, it's for the greater good. Yeah. So if there's any way I can help people, they have questions about things like aromatherapy or stress reduction or concerns, about themselves, or their loved ones, where they're at in their own life, I'd be more than happy to certainly respond to them.
Okay, so guys, I'm going to put the link to that Facebook page under here in the show notes, and you'll be able to get in contact with Dr. Sue, and you just discuss whatever you need to discuss, and get rid of that stress. Yeah, recognize that stress. That's sort of one big thing I just want to highlight is recognize that stress, and if people are saying things, listen. They're more aware of it than you are.
Yes. Absolutely. Because we like you said, you're constantly functioning that I got to get it done. Mm. People around us are much more keen to it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Dr. Sue, thanks so much for being a guest. You've been awesome. You've delivered a whole ton of value and I've had a ball.
Thanks.
And I feel relaxed.
Great. Perfect.
Excellent. I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Pete.
Goodbye.